so let's get started. We've got a full agenda, and I want to make sure that we honor your time for being here on time. So thank you all. I'm Bill Kenny, for those who I don't know, and you and I haven't met, and I'm excited to go to your facility, and I'll let you guys know at the end. We're actually going to be at your facility at the end of November as well, so this meeting will be there later in November. So the whole point of the event organizers really is we formed around the idea of a statewide entrepreneur event calendar, and now we've sort of are evolving into sort of a few different objectives, but really around getting the event organizers in the state together for an event to build really much more connection between the events, much more cohesion between our events. And you'll see as we go through today's agenda, there are a variety of objectives that we have that are really working to line up and make an event system in the state that's much more complementary. And you'll see there's probably some opportunities there. And again, Ben, just so you know, this is the speakerphone, so closer you are, the better. We're going to go around. We'll just do quick introductions. We do have at least one person on the phone, but let's start to my left. Joel, do you want to introduce yourself? Just kind of quick introduction.
Yeah, sure. My name is Joel Whipple. I generally work in digital marketing, consulting. Got involved in this through an organization called Count Me In, which doesn't hold too many events, and have been helping Bill with some of the marketing components of raising awareness about the calendar and some events last few months.
I'm Zach Razon from Innovate Hotspot. It's actually a new co-working space that's about to open in January 1st in Hotspot. We already opened a temporary space, which is located in 20 Charles Street, and we have 24 seats available. That's it.
Yeah, very good. We're excited. Cool. Angelina.
Hi, Angelina Capaldo from Startup Hartford, a community organization for startups in Hartford. We have our mixer tonight, so if anyone wants to come out, hang out in Hartford, we'll be there. I also am a licensee for Innovation Nights in Connecticut, which started out of Boston, Mass. 7 years ago, and it's a very promising model that we're happy to bring here.
Very cool. Awesome. Ben.
I'm Ben Fortran from Senator Chris Murphy's office. We have been trying to hold events of our own with entrepreneurs around the state to see what more we can be doing on the public sector side to support entrepreneurship in Connecticut. And so I'm here to just try to get a sense of what's going on in the future, so how we can be involved in existing events to meet people who might have feedback for us.
Cool. Awesome. John?
Tom Gatto with AMG Development. I'm an entrepreneur mostly in life sciences and medical devices. The consulting side of our firm also assists and fosters other startups, primarily in healthcare. I started getting more involved in the entrepreneurial culture of the state. My startups in California based, mostly because that's where the medical device technology tends to happen. So with some nudging from others, I've just taken everything. Another meetings, I've been a number of times, I've been a few ones. So I'm just going all over, trying to understand the whole culture and help where I can. And we are now also, at least on my end, going to try to drive our two startups that we have in-house. One's a social project, and one's actually a medical device, purely 100% candidate. Going to try, without any outside influence or people or so on. See how far we can get just using what we have in the state to foster, growth.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'm Tim Lavacker. I'm a software developer and entrepreneur based in Hartford, and I have a company called LaunchEZ, which is a crowdsourced database of startups, resources for startups, events for startups, mentors, like that I license out to.
The service, and you'll see today, that's what our calendar is running on. That's the sort of backbone of our statewide calendar. I know SB's on the phone, and there may be one or two others, but let's start with SB. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. SB Chatterjee. I'm in West Hartford, Connecticut. I've been living in Connecticut for 3 decades now. Was very active with the startup community and all, but for the past I would say about almost 3 years I've been involved in healthcare policy economics. I spend more time in the legislative building than I do with all the beer happy hours with our startups. But I'm fairly active in the startup community, coaching, mentoring, and startup weekends all over the state. My own venture is in healthcare itself, in analytics, and also in more with community. There's a new healthcare model coming into play, which the state is engaged in. It's called the State Innovation Model, the SIM model. So I'm very involved in entrepreneurship in public healthcare programs.
Thanks, SB. Who else is on the phone with us?
This is Ankur Kapadia. I'm Yale School of Management Executive MBA student, and I am currently working on a startup to deal with a drug counterfeiting in developing countries.
Cool. I'm sorry, could you say your name one more time?
Ankur, A-N-K-U-R.
Got it. Cool. That's great. I really appreciate it. Your the company is RxAll, is that right?
That is right.
Oh, very cool. Well, welcome today. Is anyone else on the phone with us? Okay, cool. For those on the phone, it looks like you're screen sharing as well. If you're not, just go to the email and click on the link, and you'll be able to see the slides as well. So, as I said, we do have a pretty involved agenda today. The biggest thing we want to spend time on is actually talking to you about sort of the topic. Oh, sorry about that. You're my Google Calendar now interrupting my screen here. But our biggest objective is really talking to you about your objectives and really what we've kind of defined as your superpower. But really understanding what, the sort of premise of any successful ecosystem is that there's interdependence. And so that really means that there are strengths and there are complementary opportunities. And so part of what we want to do is sort of reveal what people are really good at and where people have gaps and try to, create some opportunities for leapfrogging and improvement for every organization. So we're going to spend some time with that. Before we get into that, we'll do a few updates. Joel has an update, Tim has an update. Just so you've got a quick status on our penetration with the calendar, we've got right now roughly about 30 organizations, I think 26, sending information into the calendar, and that's aggregated. For those who don't know, it's aggregated automatically through Tim's tool. So once we set it up, and it takes a couple minutes, we get that information once a day. The calendar is pretty much 100% up to date every day, and so we get all that information and then can aggregate it out. And right now, there's probably about 30 organizations it's aggregating out to, but it could very quickly get up to over 100. We've got a relationship with the state economic development organization that actually is the parent or the sort of association of all of the town or municipal economic development organizations. So what we're working through them to do is actually get all the towns to put the widget for the calendar on their site as well. So, when we think about how do we market our events better and more effectively, get the right audience in the room, it's really about propagating the information. And so the more sites we can get this on, and certainly anybody that can help us with getting it on additional sites, that's a huge opportunity. And it's great to have the information, but until it sees eyeballs, it's not all. It doesn't have a lot of utility. So that's a big part of what we've been working on. Again, we're going to spend a fair amount of time on sort of your superpower and biggest challenge. And then I'll share one more thing that we want to, I think, attack as a group at the end, and then we'll talk a little bit about the next meeting. So with that, I'm going to pop it over to Joel, and you have, I think, a couple updates. I'm going to go out to the web so we can take a look at tech.co. But any updates sort of in the marketing efforts before we go to tech.co?
Nothing specifically. I think one of the always the asks is everybody's kind of volunteering here. I know Angelina got involved earlier, but anybody that has anybody that they work with or any ideas to help just contribute to just kind of drafting up some content. These are all open platforms. and it's a fairly easy way to kind of increase your own brand as well, but always looking for more marketing help.
So the marketing for right now, we've got some social media effort going on.
So the marketing specifically around social media, Facebook only, and then we just spent the last couple months working with the Tech.co team to build a Connecticut-only page, which took some kind of heavy lifting of the last 6 weeks or so to create just some content so they would create a page for us. But they're all in efforts to just boost the awareness of the calendar and the events, but also just the other parts of the ecosystem, as Bill alluded to, that all kind of need to work together to just kind of raise the profile a little bit. So most of the calendar, or most of the, working with the Tech.co team, we needed like 10 articles, and they're hit or miss on, they have final approval of them, so it does take some time to get them posted, but they're kind of generally about the economic situation of Connecticut, both some things from either the current or another organization. But one of the ones that we did try and make and is that ecosystem piece in the upper right-hand corner about just kind of a guide to all of the advisors, the accelerators, co-working spaces, where the meeting places where folks can meet and get some help and kind of create a larger, like, evergreen type of content portal type thing. I'm not sure exactly how much we can update it. We keep it live on Medium posts as well, and kind of promote it on Facebook every so often. So obviously with like a new co-working space like Innovate Hartford, if you come across that, shoot us your information. We can update it on Medium and kind of.
That's the name of it, or you have to actually write the article?
For what?
Like
for these, yeah.
And stuff like that. Because like with the launch of GDAT, they have the list page. It's automatically updated. So can you pull from that?
No, it's all kind of written. It's kind of getting the same information on different platforms to leverage their awareness. I think that's the main draw of why we went and tried to get the Connecticut page set up on Tech.co, is once there's some process and routine to it, then we can leverage their branding and marketing and just boosting it to additional eyeballs that we can't do in an automated fashion. Like, we do have the Launch Easy resource as like a place so that anybody can just see that, click on Launch Easy, and then have all these other resources. Trying not to necessarily recreate the wheel, but just broaden all of the various components of the ecosystem and the event. So like we're not necessarily mentioning any specific events, but it's all right. Go to the calendar. Also, kind of draw from a technical point, just trying to drop backlinks into the calendar. From a super technical perspective, sometimes Tech.co does a no following link, sometimes it doesn't. I don't really understand why. The no follows are a little bit aggravating, because that was mainly the reason why we wanted to do it, and really could help promote other folks. So with that, I know Angelina signed up and has probably been, as her been busy on some other things, but if anybody has some kind of general ideas that they want to just kind of get a byline to help their organization talk about larger ecosystem things, not necessarily their company or organization specifically, then let us know, and we can help you walk through the process we have set up on that. Additionally, on Facebook, we do try to do it semi-weekly. We did some folks earlier that have come and gone in those efforts, but broadcasting the small wins that happen in Connecticut, studies that show whether Connecticut's doing good or bad, just trying to raise awareness, and that just kind of based on some algorithm has some kind of low but steadily growing reach from here and there. So I think they'll generally kind of plug this, try and get a few more likes here and there to increase our organic reach. But that's kind of the status of the marketing efforts.
We're working on them putting a icon on for the calendar. It was supposed to be up by this morning, but as things would go. The other part and why we're interested in Tech.co, we can take content from anywhere. So if you know a syndication source such as Launch Easy, or I think we talked about maybe CBIA, or I think there are a variety of sources you might be able to syndicate from that are regularly writing articles about business, the status of business in Connecticut. That we can more sort of we can propagate this information. They already have a huge community built worldwide, so we can kind of leverage that and not just promote ourselves.
Yeah. Actually, I have a quick question. There are a couple of sites already. I know Innovation Destination Hartford is one. I believe Startup in Hartford. There are a couple of sites already that do provide very similar information about startup ecology in Connecticut. What's the possibility of doing like cross syndication and things?
Yeah, sure. And certainly Destination Hartford is not focused on Connecticut. It's the street.
Focus on Hartford.
Yeah, exactly. So, we certainly don't want redundancy. We're certainly aiming to avoid that. But there's really nothing that we've seen that focuses on the entrepreneurship ecology within Connecticut. And so we want to, and again, our primary goal is to drive eyeballs to the calendar. So we're using this as a vehicle to sort of create that sort of that interest and effort. So
these intentions are more broad-based. For my kind of being on the Innovation Destination newsletter, I think they're kind of spotlighting like company and individual wins, and we're trying to kind of preach the whole larger collaboration ecosystem. So I do find some good stuff that they promote, and then just kind of go to the source, and that's actually what you're looking at the screen, the Knowledge Capital. I saw that article that they highlighted. So, pulling from these individual organizations, trying to find content to put on here to preach to a larger universe of folks is kind of one of the underlying kind of methods that we're using.
Just because we're from a time standpoint, if anyone's interested in or has ideas, please connect with Joel or myself.
Certainly. Yeah, I'm kind of coming back into the loop, so to speak, after I took a time off, a hiatus for almost 3 years. The other thing is very recently, I think early part, was it end of last week or this past Monday, they announced this new tech initiative, CT Next initiative of innovation clusters, which about 10 towns all over the state.
Innovation places.
That's it.
So just to get cut to the point here, are you saying that's content, or why do we want to know about that related to CT?
Well, it's all got to dovetail. What the thing I envision is, for the longest time, and don't get me wrong, I've been doing Connecticut startups in .com 1.0 days. That's the late 90s. It has always been a very top-down pyramid, hierarchical type of a model.
FB, this isn't a pitch session, so we need to move on to other content.
Okay, sure.
So is there something related to tech.co that we need to act on? Can you connect with Joel on that?
I certainly will. What I'm trying to say is that we need to have more of a network type of a thing, more flattened thing, so we can all do cross syndication.
Yeah, that's why we're here, for sure.
All right, cool.
Yeah. But if you get people in the room, we're very flat. Okay, so let's shift over to Tim's update. And Tim, do you want to drive, or do you want me to drive?
Let me drive a little bit.
Just beware of the cord. It's a sensitive cord. So Tim has got the helm right now, and Tim, do you want to kind of tell us where we're going to go, what we're going to do?
Yeah. So one of the things when we talked about getting the calendar together initially was to help each other plan and see where our gaps were in events and programming, so we could kind of work through that. And we started off just by having the events on the same calendar, which was useful, but it still requires a lot of kind of going through and seeing which events are similar to yours, and in order to determine where we're at. So what we're working on launching now is a way to categorize your events so that we can then see statistics on the different types of categories or target audiences for the events that we have on the calendar.
Now, I would say what we really want is, putting this from the user standpoint, if you play the movie forward, ideally what we'll deliver, whether it's in 6 months or 12 months, is if the user has a profile, in other words, we have some information on the user, we'll be able to deliver them events that relate to them. So whether that's geographic, whether that's industry, whatever that is, so that we can take the hundreds of events going on in a month and give people the 5 or 10 that really sort of relate to them and much better serve the audience. And that can't happen without some level of taxonomy. So that's really kind of where we're going, and there are some intermediate steps, but ultimately, and it's great to have the data later and all that kind of stuff, but what we're serving will have a lot more utility when people, whether they search for it or we serve it to them, but it's much more one-to-one related. If that makes sense. Didn't mean to interrupt, but I kind of want to play it forward.
Yeah. So we're starting off with version 1 of the categorization. So you now have the ability, anyone who's integrating their events into LaunchEZ, to log in and categorize your events on a few different axes. So this is a look at the newer list view that will be out soon. And what it allows us to do, if I go over to the Stats tab here, it allows us to kind of see some information about the events that we have. Right, currently I'm in October. So we have like the total number of events. We have by business phase, like what percentage of the events target businesses in those phases. So we can see here that we're kind of heavy towards the earlier stage in terms of the events that we have. We have like 3 main types of events, which is, events where you go to learn, events where you go to solve a problem, and events where you go to connect with other people. And so that's the second layer of categorization. And then the specific type of category, whether it be about accounting or business expertise or capital, and we can see down here which percentage of our events fall into those specific categories. And then from the user perspective, they'll be able to drive someone else's computer sometimes it's a little bit tough, but they might say, I want to go and find out where I can learn about marketing, and they'll get just those events that are about learning about marketing. So I went through and I categorized about 70–80% of October and November myself. But anyone who has events in the system now can go in and check how I've categorized them, update it, and categorize any future events themselves. You got time for me to show that? Or
Go.
Yeah, okay.
For sure.
So let me show you an example of how that's done. I'm going to just log into my account, which we call the same path.
You can log into me if you want.
How do you reach all the event? I mean, the one that many events just write to you, or you search them in the internet?
How do we find the event?
Yeah.
So we have, if your events are on Eventbrite or Meetup or any iCal type system, we can actually use that link and synchronize to this calendar. So once we have that iCal link, the synchronizing happens every single day. So it's automated.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's all done through LaunchEZ.com. Once you set it up, you don't have to really touch it, but you can if you want to. And so this categorization, you have to. It does require a little bit of time, which I'll show here what it would take. But essentially, you log into your LaunchEZ account. You go to My Dashboard. You'll have your resource down here. I'll go in and I'll mimic University of Hartford Entrepreneurial Center here. You go under My Events.
And this is being recorded, too, just so you know. So we'll make it available later.
So in here, there's a new blue tag over here that will allow you for any of your events go in and hit the category page. There's also a button up here saying Need Categorization. I've kind of summarized it there for you. Any of your events that have not been categorized yet, so you can just jump here and just go through them one at a time. just to kind of show what the categorization page looks like. You hit the blue tag there, and first pick, what type of event is it? Learn, solve, or connect. What phases do you target? And it could be that you target multiple phases, but we did find a lot of events where it's just, how do I start a business? Where if someone's scaling their business, they probably don't want to see that type of event. So, kind of pick any of the phases that make the most sense. And then the way I kind of word the categories section is, if what need does it address of the entrepreneur? Is it just accounting need or some sort of business expertise in a specific section, capital, development? We have a whole number of different categories here. You can pick any of the categories that apply, and those will end up showing up when people search on those categories. Also, any of the startups that are on our site that have profiles, they put what phase they're in, they put what their needs are, and then they'll get an automatic email once a week saying, all right, you say you're needing this, here's some events that line up with what your needs are, and they get kind of like automatically pushed out events that kind of line up with that categorization. So it's another way, in addition to websites, that we can kind of get the startups the information that they need.
Now, is the geolocation function working yet? So
that's the next thing, which will be coming up this week.
So what it means is right now you can't search by, you can search by city, but you can't search by zip code. So we'll be able to do geolocation. So another thing that will help an entrepreneur find events, whether they live there, their office is there, or they're going to be in that region for the day.
Yeah, I think geolocation is important. If you look at a lot of them, they work on like workspaces, eco workspaces and so on. They're very located in New Haven or even within Hartford. There's about 3 or 4 of them now.
Yeah,
so like
that's
by
why
zip code.
Yeah, and they'll be able to, say some of the events within, 30 miles of me or something like that.
Of a zip code, yeah.
Yeah. So that's...
So 2 things. Yeah. Could you just so we have it and it's being recorded, could you just quickly show how to if I'm new, how do I get my account set up? Can you just go to that screen so people know if from the home screen, where do I want to go?
Well, if you're new and you don't have...
You don't have an account on LaunchEasy.
Right. So you would just go to join. Yeah. You create an account like this. And once you have, just simple email, password, first and last name, once you create that account, you'll get that My Dashboard screen that I was just on. And then from that My Dashboard screen, you can add profiles within LaunchEasy for a resource, and then the events get attached to the resource profile.
The other is, can we go to the Connecticut, the next tab on the screen, and just take a look? Angelina, I apologize, we're going to pick on you. We're just using you as an example, but it just so happens the second and third event on today's list are your events. If you go to the next tab.
The main one?
Yeah,
okay.
The actual ctevents.co. Just the tab.
Have it up here.
Yep. Just refresh it. And so in any event, what we're going to see is that your event tonight's listed twice. It's listed, your list, and then it's on Stanford Innovation Center's list. So one of the things there are really 2 things about this that we want to point out. Number one is neither one of them have the address. And so that will create a problem for the geolocation, besides the fact that people going there now won't know, where it is. So it just shows it's Connecticut, and then it's duplicate listed, which obviously just creates clutter in the calendar. So
I didn't create. Yeah, I just created.
You did. So they're for some reason they're doing. Okay. Well. Yeah, and they're listing for other people as well. So I'm not sure what they're doing. They're one of the partners, and we're listing all their events. So I don't know why they're doing that. But Tim, how would she fix that? Just so, she sees everybody else.
When you log in and you go to edit the event, it has the location drop down there. Now, currently right there, you have to pick from the list of the locations, so I'll have to add I've added the ability for you to enter in a brand new location. Like Spectra, I don't think is currently in the list of locations.
So that may be why.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I created it like in August.
Right.
So if you made any changes to this event, my events are booked till April, so
Yeah.
I created them in advance, maybe in somebody's features.
Right.
Maybe I don't know if we could delete it and then I can recreate it.
We can just go edit it and update it.
Yeah.
That'd be easy enough.
I think what we'll want to do is, obviously for tonight, it's not as important as for what's going forward, is just looking in your next events and just confirming that the addresses are in there. That's definitely help. And it's, I think one of the things that Tim was working on is so that we have somewhat of an exception report that happens when we don't have when the information isn't, when all the information isn't in on an event, so we can easily see, where there are gaps. Again, because we all want to have, the link to register, we want to have the addresses.
Google Calendar, you can't create regular. We've already done that.
And that's the challenge, is we're bringing in information from so many different sources. They all have different fields, and there are some standards, but it's not completely standard.
Right. They don't not all followed.
Yeah, and if there's even right works better to that, because I do the kind of signed up right.
Yeah, that one.
So if that's actually working a little bit more seamlessly, then I'd be happy to transition to that purpose. So.
All right.
Well, they have envisioning where people become members of this and sign up, where they would put in profiles of events they'd like to see. Everybody's sitting on events and never want people to show up, but there may be people out there going, this is the kind of party I'm looking to go.
Here's the gap, right?
And, you may have 40 people, I'm not a West person down there that are looking to, learn something about, a startup at this stage.
Right.
Grow up, but, they're probably there. If they had a place to go and everybody, and somebody sees, there's a lot of people here, why don't we host the event there? Right. Everybody's hosting them in their little places, expecting everybody to come to their party, but I don't know if that always works. I mean, here we are. But it's just, so sometimes it may be better to look at, you can set this platform up where people can start putting in ideas that I'd like to, if it's in my area, sign me up or let me know, and then once you get about 20 people, someone may say, your group may say, we're going to do it, we're going to host it down there. So if I just get the information out there, getting everybody,
Which is probably why Stanford Innovation Center hosted it, because they've actually do that from there. So I don't know if they're just trying to.
So to answer your question, Dom, so I think it's a good idea. What we've actually been focusing on is, so you can imagine we're getting lots of data, so we can actually look at where we have, sort of lots of density and where there are gaps and whatnot. But that doesn't take the other side of the equation that you're talking about. It's what demand is there that we're not seeing. I think what we're really looking at more from a balance standpoint. Why are we doing 4 workshops on fundamental QuickBooks and in 2 weeks, and then none for 8 months, or I think there are a lot of ways to look at. But
what kind of
the idea is how do we have a much more balanced and functional ecosystem?
And what we'll be able to do pretty quickly with this categorization piece is we'll be able to track what people are searching on. And so we can at least use that as a starting point right out of the gate to say, if people are searching for this and they're getting either 0 results or, hey, we're actually filling the results that people are looking for. So
that might be a good way to preliminarily get that.
This is where basically members who are on there, once they sign up for the profile, they can look historically, because you did have a quick seminar and blah, 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 and 3 months, but I could just jump online and hit the link and watch the YouTube of it or whatever.
Right.
However you want to see it up there and just watch, okay, I didn't miss it. We create a library because once it's done, it's kind of done. You can only talk about it so many times. I don't know.
Quick question. Tim, what kind of reports?
We're going to move on to our next item. Go ahead, SV.
What kind of reports and analytics you can do with this? Because you're looking at a lot of information coming from literally all over Connecticut. So to integrate, you can get really valuable information out of it. So what kind of reporting and analytics would be available?
So Tim, you want to answer that?
Well, that's the question. What are the reporting and analytics?
Yeah, what kind of analytics do you?
Yeah.
So I have analytics. I have Google Analytics, and then I have analytics on what searches were done. What I don't have right now for the calendar embeds is who's embedding them and what the traffic is from each of those locations. So I want to add that to the data that I'm collecting as well.
And to add,
Did that answer your question, SV?
Yeah, we can talk offline. I don't want to get too technical with it now. That's fine. Thank you.
Connect with him. He's the guru on that.
All right,
so,
will do.
Yeah, and just so everybody knows, we have a LinkedIn group, so it's real easy for anyone that you want to connect to. Easy to do that, or just ask me and I'll connect you to folks. Okay, so what we want to do next was to sort of talk about, and this is, put on your frame of reference as an event organizer, and what would you say, whether it's you or your organization, is what's your primary strength, whether it's, getting people in the room, whether it's content, whatever it is, what's the primary strength of your strength or that of your organization? And then what's a gap? Where does your challenge lie? And so there are really two reasons I think we want to get into this. Number one is we want to kind of, help and sort of, get the rising tide working here. And second is it also will feed potential future content. So we've started over the last couple of months for a few of these meetings, bringing in folks from around the country who have certain strengths in running entrepreneur-facing events, and we can bring in people who have strengths that complement or fill some of the needs that we have. So this is also information gathering. We should please agree up front, anything that we talk about as in terms of weaknesses are stay in the room. We're in Las Vegas, so you're among friends. Anyone have a problem with that agreement? Okay, good. It's on record. Cool. Well, let's go, Tim. I'm going to go to you first. Do you want to? What would you say from? I know you've co-hosted some events, you sponsored some events. What would you say is a superpower for you, and what's and a gap maybe that you've seen, not necessarily as an event host, but you've seen in organizations?
I don't know if I have really a good answer to that. I don't think I have any particular strength or particular weakness.
This is going well so far.
Yeah. I mean, from my strength is usually when there's a need that people, I hear a lot of people talking about needing something that I can put together an event that meets that need and kind of move on from there. Because the weakness is more just my availability and time. I don't have a lot of time to attend or host meetings, so that might be.
Okay. And I understand that not all of us in the room necessarily regularly host events. It's probably a smaller group. But Don, how about yourself?
Never hosted one, but I've participated in numerous ones.
Yeah.
I'm a English Notre Dame School of Business. I've done multiple events with the NFL, on the entrepreneurial boot camps, and so on and so forth. So been on that side. So
right.
And I can say from so then kind of feeding into this would be the best I see participants is we do a lecture and we bring in a guest speaker, and we've done those. Those are great, and it's nice to have them. But the boot camp one, more hands-on, that's when the entrepreneurs that we bring in actually totally engaged. They follow up. It's 3-4 years later, still, kind of mentoring some of them that are now at mid-stage. They're downstream in their ventures, and so that's when they're vested in. I mean, you're going to do a 2-day boot camp somewhere, get everybody in, and you have the whole agenda. I mean, these people have to take a few days off, whatever, we're going to charge $50 if you're going to do that, but they're vested in the process. I'm here to learn because I really want to make that, as opposed to people sit and listen. It's, I don't know what percentage of are just curious, versus the ones that are really going to seriously do something. I mean, those are the ones who usually get their speech right up front, trying to ask a question, trying to meet the person. Given more footage, we got more people about 10 show up. That's really what the mix is. So if you really want to drive something home and really get some grassroots thing going here, I would even want a hands-on organization, or somebody should do that. Collect everybody together, host it somewhere.
Right.
And then, real entrepreneurs are going to show up. I'm here to learn. Well, I'm sleep, I'm sitting there, and then from there, your networking will go, and so on and so forth. But those are the ones that I found to be really beneficial to, those who put it on, as well as those who are
you're starting to host some events there with the senator. What's the?
Yeah, we have hosted a few events, and I think we come to this from a very different standpoint. I think one of the strengths that we do have is that we do have a sort of broad reach, and we can get a lot of people engaged. But that also, on the other side of that can be a weakness too, because we're not on the ground in the same way, and it's harder for us to know where even to begin, and where, what topics need what people, and what geographical regions match to what people and what industries. It's easy enough for us to get people in a room, people engaged, and people willing to share what they think needs improvement. But it can be, it's harder to tailor them, I think, to specifically what the needs are of individual groups and of individual industries, when we have, number one, extraordinarily limited time, at least the senator's part, though I try to make myself available as much as I can. And, two, less of the sort of on-the-ground knowledge of, okay, these are the 5 people who really have talked about X subject. But I think, to Don's point, it would be very productive to have a sort of a statewide, couple of days convening type, call it boot camp or conference or what have you. But try to get as many people on as many different topics in one space, and then they can sort themselves into where they go. Again, I think that we have a lot of leverage in terms of getting people into the room, but less organic knowledge from the level that we sit at about who needs to be in a given room at a given time. That's a challenge for sure.
If I could throw out maybe a challenge I've observed, because I think, I would assume you have 2 core objectives, and that these may be, they certainly need editing, but one is, number one, in terms of information gathering when you do these events, but the other one is it's either to activate or to leave the participants with some level of positive sentiment, and it seems like that's an area of opportunity as well, in terms of, okay, so where we go. I mean, we met, right? It's like a Chinese dinner, where I'm hungry an hour or 2 later. How did, we met, so what happens from that? And how do you sort of leave the audience constituents feeling like, there's something going to happen from, them taking the time to show up to contribute?
Absolutely, and I think that can even be described as a superpower too, because we're in this unique position of being able to serve as sort of a convener for many people in the same room, and hoping, and that's a challenge to make sure we're doing it right, but hoping that we can provide something that gives people value, that they go off and take in a direction that maybe we wouldn't have anticipated in the first place. But I think also, that we have this, Joel, we were talking about celebrating small wins and highlighting them. That's another sort of bully pulpit thing that we want to be able to do more of, and to be the face of the narrative that things are happening in Connecticut, and that there are people doing exciting things, and despite challenges that we face, and look at the success that we had here in David last week on X, and by being a visible, optimistic sort of force, I think that can help frame how people think about this issue. We're in not everybody in the position to really on that scale, so that's definitely an advantage.
You definitely have the convening ability, but that's a temporary ability, right? It's sort of one that only lasts as long as people see value in it.
Right.
Angelina, how about with you're diving deep into events production management. From an outsider, your communication ability is phenomenal in terms of getting the word out in your event. Your emails always look gorgeous, but Yeah. So what do you feel your superpower is?
I think my superpower is, in reference to Startup Hartford, is obviously being a founder and maker. And for me, to curate events for other founders. It has a different, approach to it. We hope to, offer something that's kind of unique from that standpoint. But honestly, I felt there was a void in the community for events like mine. Since then, there have been more events like mine that have grown in the same distance. But nevertheless, we've, met over the past 8 months. We've met, 300-400 founders. So it's been really exciting to be able to see people come from Central Mass, Stanford, Greenwich area, whether people are in transit, they happen to be doing business in and around Hartford that day, maybe entirely local. But our eyes are very much forward into the horizon of being able to start up other Connecticut communities with socials and things beyond just socials, like independent films for startups, which we've been talking about for a while. And, doing some different takes on the startup weekend, maybe an overnight program, maybe 24 hours of getting new blood into the system and, things like that. At the time, I think, is also a weakness in general. It's my day job, my startup Hartford, and now add an innovation night, which hopefully will be free to be typed in my day job in 2018. So that's sort of going to be very helpful that I could just do innovation night for a living and then advocate for startups, around that. Would give me a lot more time and liberty to do that.
And a challenge, what's the gap?
The challenge is it's Hartford. It's hard, and it's not easy to do business in Hartford, and it's not easy to. Connecticut is very disconnected. So I'm definitely finding challenges and finding ways to bring cool events like Innovation Nights to Connecticut. Is it the state that is embracive to new ideas and new people? Because I think, for quite a while now, I think Connecticut's gotten very comfortable with who they work with, a community of providers and organizers and leaders. But I think in order for us to continue to grow, and we're going to need to welcome new people in a way that is supportive. The reaction I got in Hartford back to, not this past summer, the summer before was, let's see how you do. Let's see if you sink or swim, which is really not the way to raise a community or a culture or environment because it's fun. So I'm having a hard time surviving that because there's a lot of silos and there's a lot of people with different agendas all trying to compete in each other within a small space as it is. So I try my best to, to make sure people know what I'm doing, what I'm working on, and, welcome, the collaboration. I mean, Jimmy mentioned before you don't have a lot of time, but he was gracious enough to host one of our mixers next year. We want to get to know startups, so we would like to allocate 6 mixers next year in startup spaces in Hartford. We want to get to know these founders on a more intimate level and, and learn about what's making them successful to get to where they are.
Bill?
Yes, that's
very quickly, I want to mention there's one of the biggest challenges. First I want to give really kudos to Angelina and even Mark Lassa for having those social beer hours, and those are very important to grow like a startup culture. But technically, we have a lot of technical groups like Microsoft developers, Java developers, Drupal developers, JavaScript. There's a gap between the developers and the startup community, something I addressed several years ago. When I was running the Microsoft developers, to get both these two ends of these two bridges, the technical developers and the startup guys together, perhaps in social events or any other kind of events, will be a big boost for the ecology. It was something I used to do or attempted to do, but I can't anymore because it's a question of time and resources.
Well, do the technical people drink beer?
Actually, believe it or not, they do. And or pizza, maybe.
Well, how about if you and Angelina connect offline? Would that be all right?
Yeah, it's not just with Angelina, but overall, yeah, I've attended quite a few meetings. Even if you go down to Reset, there's a lot of the entrepreneurs are there, and they're always looking for technical developers. Whereas
Yeah,
I know.
My point is, if we start with Angelina and you help her get the Microsoft funding, they might buy her beer or something for her event or something like that.
Yeah, I don't run the Microsoft developers group anymore.
You know who does? Keepers. Come on, we're networking.
No, Bob Olheiser. No, I've been really out of it. About 3 years ago, Bob Olheiser took over it. But my point being is, if you're hosting events, is to market your events even to the technical developer community.
But my events, at least to speak to that, are really, directed towards startups. But really, that's a doer. It doesn't matter if you're a creator, a maker, a founder. It's a doer. It's someone that is impacting change and doing something that's, highly scalable. And so we work with Makerspace PT, opening next summer in Hartford. So we work with Make Hartford. We're very familiar with those spaces, and we have quite a few attendees that come. Steve from Make Hartford comes to our events. Peter, who works out of that space, also comes.
So we have about 5 minutes left on this topic. I want to make sure we get to the last couple of folks. Are you guys running events yet at Make Hartford?
Actually, I have a lot of weakness, a lot of strength.
I have a lot of weakness. You come to the right place.
Yes, because I just learned, I just started my job here. I came from Tel Aviv. I basically was a chef in Israel. I used to have a company that give food and beverage service to one of the best co-working space in Israel. 5 of those. My client was Microsoft, was SAP, was a lot of great names in the field in Israel. And right now I take this job in Hartford, and it's really, really hard to get to people.
Yeah.
So first of all, thank you all for being shared with me this information, because obviously I'm going to attend a lot of events here. So it's a great opportunity for me to know and learn the field here. And my goal right now is to bring the awareness and the innovation to households. And the weakness is how to get to people, how to be in the right place, how to make the introduction very, very well to the people that household is a good place for entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
This is my main goal. I mean, we're going to open an amazing space. It's going to be huge. We're going to have all the facilities. It's not going to be different in Tel Aviv, in New York, in Boston, all over the world. It's going to be something that unseen in Connecticut. And I want to share this issue with people,
We need to get events hosted at your facility.
Yeah.
We're hosting an event in December. It's a preview for our guests of the Cross Days.
Yeah,
so we're definitely working.
And when we're thinking about events, I think that my space is going to be amazing for this.
Yeah.
We want to share, the space if Angelina wants to make events. So it's not a problem with money, we have the space available, so you can come and make events. If you want to make events, everyone that wants to make events, just stick with me,
Understood.
And I will make it. About all the things of the technical things, for me it's nothing, because I used to make events in Israel for 500 people.
Sure.
So all the technical issues, it's not a problem for me. I know it from the kitchen side, from the logistics side, from all of the sides. This is why I'm here, because I want to make the change. I want to bring and I see those websites that you're doing here. Actually, in Israel, we have a lot. We have one of my friends in Israel. He has a huge website called Big Time, and it's like the New York Times for startups. I mean, they have like thousands of users, and they have like 20, 25 events every day. So it's really, really, really important what you're doing here. I mean,
the startup scene in Israel is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. It's great. It's really great to have you here. It's really
Thank you very much.
for sure. Probably a lot of us could. Joel,
just
bring us home here.
Quickly, I guess. I don't hold that many events, if any, but generally speaking, I think one of my strengths at events is helping people connect the dots in terms of what they're doing, other resources around, and kind of give it some kind of technical pointers at a high level, particularly around kind of spreading their word of what they're trying to get done. And I think to kind of echo some of the other weaknesses, just trying to get more eyeballs around is probably I'm not terribly good at proactively promoting anything that I'm interested in. So that leads to a weakness in terms to help other folks kind of move their things forward. But that's about it.
Well, so the folks on the phone, SB, I know you're not running events currently. And Kur, are you running any events?
Not right now, actually. I'm just trying to learn what your group is about and see if I would want to get involved, and B, what would that mean?
Gotcha. Cool.
And
Well, let's you and I talk offline. Is there anyone else that's joined us on the phone?
Hi, Bill. This is Paige.
Hey, welcome, Paige.
Hey. So,
we
strengths
just
and
have about
weaknesses.
a minute, then we're going to need to move on to other stuff.
Super
so
quick.
What's your superpower and what's the gap?
Yeah. So, superpowers here is, we do big events pretty well. The smaller events, trying to, do the kind of learning programs or sort of workshops, trying to define what people really want and need and where the gaps are. We don't have a big staff here, but we do a lot of things, and when we add more learning programs, we really try to find a gap that other people aren't doing. So this whole tech.co site is really useful for us because we try to pay attention to that. So that's one of our gaps and what we do well. Do you want more weaknesses? I got many.
I'm sorry?
Do you want more weaknesses? I can keep going.
Oh, yeah. That will need a beer maybe to talk through the rest of it. No, just kidding. So just to restate, it sounds like you're looking to do, it sounds like more learning events, but you want to make sure that they are going to be, you're going to have a good audience for those. Is that a good summary of that?
Absolutely. Yeah. And also trying to build things, in a community that sort of needs building. We just had this Venture Clash event that CI ran that really focused on fintech and medical devices. Well, okay, the event happened and those companies were maybe sold on Connecticut, but then what? What is there to sort of catch them when they look over to Connecticut next week to see what's happening?
Cool.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sorry to just give you a short time, Paige. I didn't realize you're on, and I really appreciate you being with us. Just so everybody knows, Paige is from the Connecticut Technology Council. And is anyone else on that we didn't get to? So I have two quick things I want to talk about just as we close here. One is, last week, I was at a convention of Startup Weekend organizers from around the Americas, essentially North and South. And I was talking to the actual folks that run Startup Weekend. It's now Techstars owned, which is the largest accelerator group in the world. And one of the things I was seeing as I talked to folks who run Startup Weekends in other communities is there's generally a central organization that somehow sort of manages the topics and allocation of dates. And so what happens in that is that you avoid a lot of conflicts. There's better complementation. And in Connecticut, just not everybody has a view of this. We've historically had about 5 Startup Weekends a year, from UConn all the way down to Stanford Innovation Center and a few in between. We got to a place, it was last year, where we actually had 3 Startup Weekends happen within 4 weeks of each other and 15 miles of each other. That's how uncoordinated the whole process was. And so you can imagine a lot of the year we didn't have any startup weekends, and then we had 3 sort of happen in a very narrow band of time. And so one of the things we've had as a sort of a goal as a group, it was really one of our founding goals, was to be able to sort of, if you look at the events that happen, just imagine 2 different categories. Call them gateway events for a moment, the sort of everything from Startup Hartford, Startup Weekends, all the events that could be first-time events for people to get into the ecosystem or sort of on the earlier stages for folks. And then maybe to look at the tier 2 as program events. And those would be ones that you have to apply to. So, Resets Accelerator or the Refinery or what you're doing with the Uber pitch, Angelina. But anything that needs an application, right now we have no coordination between the things that you have to apply for and the things that you can just walk in the door and participate in. And sort of the vision that I've had and that kind of caused me to want to begin this was, if we can begin lining up the gateway events with the application events, because when you talk to the people that run the application programs, they continually complain that they don't have enough quality applicants. I don't get enough applications, and they're not good enough quality. Hear it from every program. But yet, they don't do much to drive that. In other words, they don't share their dates very far in advance. So I've been talking to some of these organizations to get their dates further out so that we can begin coordinating the startup weekends and various content. I know you want to do like pitch camps and things like that, but all this stuff should line up with what, where actually people can sort of utilize it to get to the next level. And so that's for anyone who has an interest in talking more about that, obviously we're kind of running out of time. We got to get to the mentor meeting. But that's something I really want to, as we get into 2017, what I'm working with Startup Weekend on is sort of allowing us to sort of be the arbiter in Connecticut for sort of allocating dates. And it's more of a dotted line thing. They're not going to give us total control, and we don't really want it. But the idea that we can at least supervise or help supervise that process and actually work with the resets and refineries and so on to say, give us your dates 12 months out, even if, plus or minus 15 days, it's fine. But when do your applications open? When do they close? And what's the cohort mix you're looking for? It's all women, it's social enterprises, whatever it is. And we'll see if we can begin lining up some of these gateway events so that we can complement that. Because I don't think our issue is not enough events. The issue is we don't coordinate anything, so there's no complementation. Come on in, Jen. So anyway, that's a big thing that we're working on. Tim and I have also talked about a pilot or a pirate ball sometime maybe in the first quarter, and that would be something where we would do an awards event to recognize the best accelerator, the best entrepreneur, and whatever we will figure out. We're still debating how and when to do that, but stay tuned. We've been both traveling a lot, so we haven't had time to really talk about this. So in any event, if you're interested in that, let me know, and we need additional pirates to help us pull that off for sure. So our next event is going to be on November 30th. We're going to be at Innovate Hartford, so totally excited. So this is in your actual space, right? Yeah. Cool. That's going to be really fun. So more details on that to come, but November 30th. Sorry we went like 2 or 3 minutes over. I apologize for that. We had tons to fit in. I'm so excited that you guys are involved. The folks on the phone, Paige and SB and Cor, it's great to have you guys. There'll be a follow-up email within a day or two, but anyone that you want to connect to, either pop on the LinkedIn group, and I'll send out that link for those that aren't on it in the next email, or just let me know and I can help connect you as well. So thank you all, and we'll talk soon. I'll leave the line open for anyone that's hanging out for the mentor meeting.
Thanks so much, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Bye now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Bill.